This is Math 2 12.3 homework questions. That's Math 2, Unit 12, Lesson 3. That's Worksheet 3 homework questions. And I'm going to go over a few of them with you. I will start off with number 1. I'd like to talk about it. I'm going to let you fill it in on your own, but I will talk about it. It asked you here, it says, based on diagrams A, B, and C, what do you notice? You should notice something about the linear pairs right here. These two angles add up to something every single time. These two angles add up to something. These two angles add up to something, and it's the same something every single time. So you would say the linear pairs add up to blah, blah, blah every single time. The arcs here add up to the same number. That arc plus that arc plus that arc, and those two arcs always add up to the same number. So you would say the arcs add up to blah, blah, blah every single time. Okay, so then you can also go on and say something about doubling, because if you double 50, you get 100. If you double 130, you get 260. And the same is true here. 100 double is 200, 80 double is 160, and the same is true here. So the arcs are double the value of the angles. All that stuff you're going to put in your own words and write it down. Okay, starting off with the worksheet, I'll start off with an easy one. We'll start off with number 2. What's the measure of each arc? Okay, if this angle is 117, I know this corresponding arc out here is not equal but double, and 117 doubled is 234. So that's one of them. How you find the other one is up to you. I'm just going to use the outside, since I already know that's 234, I'm just going to subtract 234 from 360. And end up with 126. All right, so I found the two arcs. Okay, I am going to jump down to number 4. They're asking us for X, which is the arc, and they gave us its angle, and here the angle is 70. And what do we know? The arc is always double, so 2 times 70 equals 140. So X is 140 degrees. Okay, what about number 6? Number 6, they give you the arc, and they're asking for the angle. What do? We double or cut in half. The angles are half of the arc, so to find that X, you're going to cut 160 in half and get 80 degrees. Okay, number 8. It doesn't matter whether you double or cut in half. I'd much rather double, and I double the angle to equal the arc. So I'm going to double 8x plus 6. Set it equal to 18x minus 4. And I'll let you guys finish that on your own. Same thing here. You're going to double this inside to equal the outside. Okay, let's go ahead and flip over to the next page. Okay, and these back here, some of them are review. First one, what is the measure of arc DCB? Remember DCB, because there's 3 letters, we're not going from D to B. We're going to D to B, but along the C side. So D to C to B, which means you're going to add 176 plus 89. And that comes out to be 265 degrees. Okay, what's the arc of BD? Now, there's different ways of finding that arc. Now, this is not a straight line, because if it was a straight line, that would be 180. So you cannot think of this 89 plus what is 180. But we know all the way around is 360. So I'm going to call this X. X plus 176 plus 89 equals 360. Well, we already did 176 plus 189, and that was 265. X plus 265 equals 360. Subtract 265 from both sides. So 360 minus 265 equals, let me write that down, minus 265. And you should have your calculator out and working these out as well. X equals 95. So that was this angle, or that angle there. And remember, and I didn't say this on the previous part, on this part up here, that this right here is these are central angles. All three of these are central angles because the vertex is at the center, which means they are equal, not cutting anything in half or doubling. So if X is 95, the arc is also 95. And I'm going to put that over here as well. This arc right here is 176, and that's because it equals its central angle. And this arc right here is 89, and that's because it equals its central angle, because central angles are congruent to its corresponding arc. Okay, that is it for that one. I am going to do number, I'll talk about this one. They want us to find this angle in here, and I know this angle is half of this arc. So how do you find the green arc? You know all around a circle is 360. So 124, I'll call this outside green X. 124 plus 58 plus X equals 360. But once you find X, X is not what you're looking for. If this is X, the angle in here is half the measure of X. So let's say X comes out to be 100. It's not, but let's just say X came out to be 100, then your final answer would be 50. So it's whatever the arc is, cut in half to find this inscribed angle. Okay, I'm going to move on. The rest you should know how to do. I'll set this one up. Which one, what do? You have choices. You double the angle to equal the arc, or you cut the arc in half. And again, I've said before, I'd rather double. And you can solve that one on your own. You're going to do the same thing here. Which one are you going to double? You double the angle. To equal the arc. Okay, and these down here are review. It says solve using the quadratic formula. So I'm going to just do the first one with you. A is 3, B is -6, C is 2. And remember the song x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so that's what you're going to work with. X equals blank plus or minus the square root of blank squared minus 4 blank blank all over 2 blank. And negative b, or opposite of b, b is -6. Another b is -6 minus 4, a is 3, c is 2 over 2 times 3. Okay, I end up with opposite of -6 is +6 plus or minus the square root of 36. 4 times 3 times 2 is 24, and there's only one minus, there's not another negative, so it's going to stay minus 24 over 6. As tempting as it is to reduce those two, you do not, remember that. We have to clean it up still. 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 24 is 12. Still cannot reduce. Now what you would have to do, you're not done because you have to break the 12 up. Let's pretend 12 was 13. If that 12, do not change yours, if that 12 was a 13, you would be done. That would be your answer. Because 13 is prime, it does not break down, and you cannot reduce this because there's a 1 right there that does not reduce with the 6. But it was not a 13, it was a 12, which means I'm going to break down and take out any pairs. 4 times 3, 2 times 2, a 2 comes out, so I have 6 plus or minus the 2 that came out, 2 root the 3 that stays in, all over 6. And now, lastly, I can divide everything by what goes into 6, 6 and 2. Everything can divide by 2. Not the radical, but the number on the outside. And that gives you 3 plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1 root 3. I'm just going to write that as root 3. All over 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's a whole lot of 3's in that answer. That's your answer for number 16. And that is it for this section of homework questions.